This is TWiT.
In the spirit of being healthy and in the spirit of Elon Musk's latest views on how we should do these sort of things.
Oh no.
Who's up for a spliff? Right.
Oh my gosh.
No, I'm kidding. This is a family show. There is nothing in there other than pure legal tobacco, which will only kill you if you use it as per the manufacturer's instructions. But what was Elon thinking? I mean, seriously.
So are we familiar with the Joe Rogan show as a group in general?
Yes.
Have we seen this
Yes.
before? Okay, so for people who don't know the Joe Rogan show, it's one dude who's in the MMA scene, Joe Rogan, who's also a quasi-comedian, who does
MMA is mixed martial arts. That's basically
news
two
radio
people.
back in the 1990s when he was basically just the bohunk that was brought on to be the muscular engineer type. And it sort of amazes me that he swerved into this
niche.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, he's mastered it, so kudos to him.
But his show has great reach. Like James Hetfield from Metallica went on after the latest album. Every celebrity you've known's dropped by, and it's a long-form interview. Now, what would happen if you took that format and put a kind of really under-stressed tech executive with a history for drug use and crazy sayings? Well, what you can imagine happened. So...
Yeah, but I mean, 9% off the share price of the company initially. It bounced back slightly. The US military is now looking into this because as a federal contractor, he's not supposed to have anything to do with drugs. I mean, Dwight, at the end of the day, was this mental breakdown? Was this just publicity seeking?
Well, if you watch the whole video, I don't think Elon necessarily was expecting it, but haven't there been tweets between his girlfriend and another musician about him getting stoned all the time? I seem to remember a story about that a couple of weeks.
When he was joking about taking the company private.
Yes, right, exactly. And so I think he's 420 friendly anyway, and he's not the guy actually working turning wrenches on the rockets. So I'm not sure exactly how that extends up. One of the things that's really fascinated me about the legalization of pot around the country is you have places where it's now legal, but you have businesses who will fire you if you do it. And this kind of dovetails into that a little bit because, what are Tesla's and SpaceX's rules about doing marijuana, even on your own time and certainly in public?
Yeah, there was a report of a woman who was fired from Tesla because she tested positive for marijuana, cannabis, and she was mad because Elon was out there smoking weed. Now, I don't have a problem with what you do in your own time, for sure, but I do think that it was a failure of crisis communications, too, in the middle of the struggles that Tesla has had in the last 12, 18, 24 months, to go through this level of distraction and stupidity into the mix.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the question is, the question I have is, how does Musk understand his relationship with his shareholders and his board of directors? Because it's one thing when it's your company and there are not people who have put their money into it and are relying on you to make the kind of decisions that will increase market valuation. But when you become a public company, you are essentially making a contract with shareholders that says, when I act as a representative of this company in the public space, everything I do in the interest of increasing value. And I don't know.
This doesn't increase value, does it?
He hasn't demonstrated. He hasn't demonstrated an awareness of that. He hasn't demonstrated an understanding that once your company is publicly traded, your relationship to both your intellectual property and your corporation is much different than when you own the whole thing the whole way down.
Well, also, he spends so much time complaining about short sellers going after his stock, and then to give them such blatant ammunition seems, quite frankly, a little bit bizarre. But
self-defeating, even. But this is the story of Elon in the last couple of years. I mean, he's done through his firms a lot of really great stuff. I still watch SpaceX launches because I'm a huge nerd.
No, me too. He's revolutionized that area.
The live video is fantastic. And the Model 3 launch has finally revved up. They're claiming to hit profitability this year. If he just said nothing, a lot of stuff would have gone away. Instead, Joe Rogan, a large blunt, and 1,000 million memes that were born from that moment. I mean, just unnecessary, and he needs better friends to tell him not to do this stuff.
Well, I also wonder if there's the fallacy of intelligence where the idea is if you're really smart in one area, you're smart in all areas.
The Germans do have a word for this. It means someone who is highly skilled in one area or a complete fool in others.
I'm going to Google what that is.
Yeah,
please do.
It's definitely in there.
Because I wouldn't contest his innovation or his genius in a lot of ways. And in that interview, one of the things I really liked was how he nerded out over alternative energy sources.
Oh, yeah.
And the idea of breaking free of the fossil fuel economy. I mean, good for him for getting those ideas out to an audience that is not typically hearing those ideas. Like, good for him for that. And good for him for being smart about this stuff. But is he smart about how to be a CEO of a public-facing, publicly traded company?
Well, in that same interview, he also reiterated the idea that maybe we're all just living in a simulation. That came up again, and that was after the toke, I believe.
There's a philosophical term for that too, where and I forget what that is. I read about it recently, where somebody like did an entire philosophical syllogism who's like, this is the only logical conclusion. I was like, really?
Well,
yeah, that's what Elon believes, and that can't be good for his shareholders either. He doesn't want shareholders. I mean, that's clear. He said he wanted to
really like mess with him at a meeting and just have like a bunch of Mr. Smiths come in and sit down, like a bunch of Hugo Weavings look-alike sitting in the audience, all just completely unamused. And simulation this, Elon.
Okay.